Welcome to today's meeting of Bass Coast Shire Council, Wednesday the 15th March 2023. As the meeting chair, I give my consent for this open council meeting to be streamed live, recorded and published online in accordance with council's live streaming policy and governance rules. To members of the public joining us in the gallery today, by attending this public meeting of the council, you are consenting to your image, voice and comments being recorded and published. The Chair or CEO have the discretion and authority any time to direct the termination, interruption of live streaming. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances where deemed relevant. Circumstances may include instances where the content of debate is considered misleading, defamatory or potentially inappropriate to be published. Attendees are advised they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in inappropriate and or unacceptable behaviour and comments. Thank you. Mobile telephone reminder, please turn off all mobile telephones, or in the case of an emergency, please advise the chair and switch to silent mode. Statement of acknowledgement. Bass Coast Shire Council acknowledge the Bunurong as the traditional owners and custodians of the lands and waters, pays its respect to their elders past, present and emerging, for they hold the memories, the traditions, the culture and law. Bass Coast Shire Council celebrates the opportunity to embrace and empower the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island communities in their diversity. Bass Coast Shire Council will create opportunities for future recognition and respectful partnerships that will honour the traditional owners and custodians and Aboriginal or Torres Strait Island peoples. I call on Councillor Lasserve to read the councillor statement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That one open.
Apologies for catching you on the hop, Councillor Lasserve. That's what my notes have.
Right. Councillor statement. All members of this council pledge to the Bass Coast Shire community to consider every item listed on this agenda based on the individual merits of each item without bias or prejudice, by maintaining an open mind and disregarding council's personal interests, so as to avoid any conflict with our public duties. Any councillor having a conflict of interest in an item will make a proper prior disclosure to the meeting and will not participate in the debate or vote on the issue. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lasserve. We have two apologies for today's meeting. Councillor Lark and Councillor Kent are apologies. Declarations of interest. Councillor Rook has declared an interest for items 8.2 and 8.4 of today's agenda. And it brings us to the minutes of the meeting held on the 15th of February 2023. I call on a councillor to move and second that the minutes of the council meeting held on the 5th of February 2023 be confirmed. Councillor Bauer and Councillor Lang. Those in favour? It's carried. So it brings us to Mayor and Councillor reports, and as has become our way, we'll report those reports in the minutes, but we do have an acknowledgement, and I call on Councillor Holstead to acknowledge the passing of Braden Urbacher.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We are deeply saddened by the passing of Braden Urbacher on Sunday the 5th of March at the Penrith Pro MX Championship held at Wonthaggi Motocross track. It was an absolute honour for me to officially open the event on the Sunday morning. The buzz and atmosphere around the track was terrific. It was Wonthaggi at its best. So many families were out enjoying themselves, and the buzz around the races was electrifying. There is nothing better than watching people participate and compete in the sport that they love. And I'm so proud that Bass Coast Shire Council is sponsor of the Penrith Pro MX Championship. In the morning, I had a tour of the track with Peter Doyle, the CEO of Motorcycling Australia. He spoke about his passion for motocross and his vision for Wonthaggi. Apart from my official duties, I loved speaking to some of the young competitors and am in awe of their talent and passion. Tragically, just a few hours into the event, the unthinkable happened, and young Braden Urbacher, a talented competitor with a bright future ahead of him, was killed. My heart goes out to Braden's family and friends. Whilst I did not know Braden personally, what I have come to learn about him is that he lived his all but too short life to the fullest and was loved by everyone who knew him. No words can ever ease the pain and loss Braden's family and friends must be feeling right now, But please know that you are in my thoughts and everyone at Bass Coast Shire Council. My heart goes out to you with deepest sympathy and condolences. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Holster. That brings us to item 5, public questions. First question from Kevin Griffin. In the past years, council community connection sessions have identified valuable council engagement opportunities, such as the advanced publication of the proposed agenda items for council meetings. Council has seized both of these valuable community engagement functions with the community. When will council reintroduce proposed agenda item list in the community connection sessions? I call on the CEO.
Through the Mayor, Council recently adopted a communications and engagement strategy which outlines how it will continue to engage with the community.
Kevin Griffin, question 2, Kevin Griffin, CEO employment contract. Should they request to do so, is a council permitted to obtain a copy of the CEO's employment contract?
Through the Mayor, Council has a CEO employment and remuneration policy that outlines the management of the CEO's employment, including the contract of employment. 3 councillors are appointed to the CEO Employment and Remuneration Committee, which is overseen by an independent chair.
Question 3 is from Andrew Marsden, Coastal Hill Shared Pathway. Where did the current intended route of this pathway originate from, as it does not follow the routes previously denoted in Council's documentation, which were informed by community consultation when produced? Will Council commit to pausing all further work to progress this project until such time as they have properly engaged with the community to address their concerns over the currently proposed route and also discuss potential significant cost savings of the order of $250,000? CEO.
Through the Mayor, Council adopted its Tracks and Trails strategy in November 2022 to consolidate previous strategic work. Council will be undertaking further community engagement on this project before proceeding further.
Excuse me. Question 4, Graham Jolly, Capital Works Projects. Council receives federal and state government grants for shovel-ready capital works projects, which Council manages. How much money has Council determined for the management costs from 1/7/2022 to 31/12/2022, the half year?
Through the Mayor, project management costs are typically 10% of a project and reconciled at the completion of a project or financial year.
Graham Jolly, General Revenue. Would Council please provide the money figure Council has available in General Revenue as 15/3/2023, the date of this meeting?
Through the Mayor, provisional year-to-date revenue at end of February 2023 is $85.88 million.
Melissa Dagg, disposal of solar panels and wind turbine blades. The Environmental Protection Authority bylaws require Council to comply with disposal laws. Would Council provide its licence number for the disposal of solar panels and wind turbine blades?
Through the Mayor, Council's EPA operating licence number for Grantville is 0L00012129. Council does not accept and/or dispose of any waste it currently is not licensed for.
Kim Lightfoot, MAV. Council is member of the Municipal Association of Victoria. The MAV yearly income was reported more than 100 million. What was the purpose for Councillor Brett Tessari to attend 10 MAV meetings out of 11 during the year?
Through the Mayor, Councillor Tessari was the MAV board representative for Gippsland.
Joy Button, Cape Barren Geese shootings. 1. DECA have an authorised permit to shoot Cape Barren geese on land in Agar Road, Coronet Bay, which is residential housing surrounding. I am unaware other means of reducing the wildlife, such as harvesting of eggs, haven't been implemented. Can the community be advised by Council of planned dates of shooting? Why have no other alternative plans, such as those stated in Council's Wildlife Environmental Plan 2021, been implemented?
Through the Mayor, this is a state government issued permit and inquiries regarding alternative options should be directed to DECA.
Questions 9 to 18 are about the... I'll start again. Council has received 10 questions from 10 individuals regarding item 8.1 Surf Beach Sunderland Bay Road and Drainage Improvement Preferred Concept Design. Questions come from Susie Wicks, Paul Coventry, Jeff and Pauline Parker, Maxine Sando, Gavin O'Connor, Tanya Edmonds, Natasha Dunstan, Anne Clemens, Susan Peel, Louise Lyle. This matter is listed for consideration on the Council agenda. The questions will be published in the meeting minutes And a group response for these questions is councillors will consider and debate all aspects and implications of this issue as part of council's agenda today. Susie Wicks, topic Surf Beach, Sunderland Bay Road. That's it. Oh, no, I've got those. Okay. Need to rearrange that. Notices of motion, item 6. We have an item of a notice of motion submitted by Councillor Letitia Lang. Can I invite you to read and move the motion without speaking to it, please, Councillor Lang?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. These are the MAV State Council motions relating to childcare reimbursements and social media bullying towards candidates and councillors.
Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Bauer. Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Under the provision of the Local Government Act, childcare or carers' expenses are allowed to be claimed by a councillor to effectively perform their duties as councillor, and they must be reported on. In recent times, some media have unfairly targeted councillors who have claimed reimbursements for these costs, including myself. This motion is being moved in solidarity with other councils who have approved the same motions to go to the Municipal Association of Victoria, including the City of Kingston, the City of Knox, and it is also going before the Shire of Cardinia. And I just wanted to clarify for our local paper that the Sentinel Times has not been part of this criticism. And in fact, our local paper of late has run some long-standing campaigns against violence against women and significant coverage for International Women's Day and women's issues in general. It is predominantly women councillors who bear the brunt of being criticised for their legitimate childcare expenses. And despite such reimbursements enabling councillors to perform their legislative role. At the Women's Leadership Summit in 2021, it was discussed that this unfair media bias has subsequently led to many councillors not claiming reimbursements of childcare or carer expenses due to a fear of being attacked by opponents and or the media. While these reimbursement of these expenses is a right, the requirement to declare these for individual councillors in the annual report will continue to perpetuate an unfair characterisation of women in local community leadership positions and reinforces the gender inequalities which may discourage women from entering local politics and is recognised as a barrier to achieving 50-50 representation in local government. It is vital to remove all barriers for women to enter politics who may be parents to young children or carers of people who need care. For communities to thrive, it's critical that any barriers or obstacles to diverse representation on councils be removed. Amending the requirement for childcare reimbursements is a small but important act to demonstrate that the state government is committed to removing barriers to community leadership while maintaining public transparency.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, fellow councillors, a member of the community watching this meeting and, oh, he's gone, that's it. No audience. The notion of men going out to work and women staying at home to look after children is no longer relevant in the modern age. Childcare is not a luxury. It is a legitimate expense. If we want to encourage women to be part of our workforce, and particularly be a councillor for Bass Coast Shire, we have to provide the necessary tools to be able to achieve that. I'm not saying that childcare is exclusively the realm of women, but the reality is that this task falls predominantly on females. Look at the average age of the composition of this council. Look at what stage of life we are at. Most of us are past the need for childcare. If we want to encourage younger people to stand for council, it is inevitable that these people will have young children. There should not be a stigma attached to this necessary part of life, and I'm pleased that Bass Coast Shire views this function as a claimable cost as part of our operating expenses. We councillors ask council to pay for professional development courses, and we councillors are lodged every kilometre for travel expenses. These expenses are allocated to the councillor who claims it. By bearing the claimable expense to another part of the Shire Council will open us up to the catch-cry lack of transparency. Claiming childcare expenses is nothing to be ashamed of. we should not give credence to the stigma that childcare should be borne by the family. It is not an acceptable expense. As to part 2 of this motion, anybody standing for election or is an elected councillor needs to have a healthy ego and a pretty thick skin. There's a fine line between robust debate and bullying. I agree it would be useful to run a course on how to recognise the difference between robust debate and bullying and how to deal with it. It should be part of the candidate's induction training before launching a nomination. Many people stand for election not realising how brutal an election can be. I also agree that women are far more susceptible to the abuse than men. Stopping online abuse and trolling is impossible. So often what is an innocuous comment, an innocuous post, is taken the wrong way by other people. This then comes into what constitutes free speech. However, saying that, I support this motion. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Bauer. Any other councillor wish to speak to this? Yeah, councillor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Apologies, all tongue-tied.
I support everything that councillor Lang and councillor Bauer have said today in relation to the first part of councillor Lang's notice of motion, but I did want to speak to the second part and express to councillor Lang my understanding of its intent. There certainly are many people out there in cyberland, or what I like to call cyberland, that find way more courage sitting behind a keyboard and purging their anger and nasty, vicious, rude, and quite frankly, immature remarks that are hurtful. Unfortunately, politicians are not held in very high regard by many across Australia, and it seems anti-bullying sentiments across society often do not extend to them. As we work hard to stamp out bullying in our schools, our workplaces, and our communities, a lot of people still believe that whacking a politician publicly is acceptable and their position makes them fair game. If supported by the MAV, I'm not sure of the success this might have in achieving the intent, councillor Lang, but I'm willing to support it because bullying should not be accepted under any circumstance and in any way, shape or form. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Holstead. Any other councillor wish to speak to this?
Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Lasserve.
I'd just like to congratulate councillor Lang for bringing this to the attention as a notice of motion to council and to move forward with the MAV. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Lasserve. Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, councillor Lang, you wish to reply?
Nothing further to add, Mr Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, we'll put that resolution then. Those in favour? That's carried. 7, there are no petitions, joint letters, deputations or correspondence. Item 8.1 is the Surf Beach Sunderland Bay Road and Drainage Improvement Preferred Concept Design. Mr Sturton to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present to council a preferred design option for a potential road and drainage upgrade project at Surf Beach in Sunderland Bay. It is noted that this is not a decision to adopt a special charge scheme. The decision before council is to progress a preferred design based on thorough community consultation to obtain a cost ratio that would be borne by council and the residents if a special charge scheme would ensue. The design before council is the most preferred by local residents and has been amended following consultation with the Surf Beach and Sunderland Bay community. The design now contains a minimal cost option to keep costs to residents as low as possible, significant reduction of footpaths as per community feedback, the use of road narrowing treatments instead of speed humps to decrease price and increase amenity, various intersection threshold treatments based on safety needs, and water-sensitive urban design elements to maintain the existing swale drain amenity of the area. The decision before council is in line with council's adopted urban road and drainage improvement policy and would enable this preferred concept design to progress to cost estimating. Once this is achieved, a funding ratio will be produced, which will be between council and residents. Residents would then understand the exact amount that would be apportioned to them for a potential upgrade project and be invited to vote upon a potential special charge scheme. It is noted that a petition against this project has been tabled with council. The Surf Beach and Sunderland Bay residents will be given an opportunity to vote upon this proposal if the project should progress to such a stage, and will do so enabling them to be furnished with the precise facts about the project and cost apportionment. It is recommended that council adopt concept option 1, base case with modifications, and progress this design option to produce a cost funding model which can be shared with the Surf Beach and Sunderland Bay community and which will then inform future stages in relation to this project. It is also recommended it advise the head petitioner of its decision. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Smith. I have a councillor to move and a councillor to second. Councillor Lasserve and Councillor Holstead. Councillor Lasserve.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Council has many unmade urban estate roads that are legacy issues that need to be corrected. They have, over the years, created dust, drainage, pedestrian safety issues and very poor urban living conditions. And this has been the case for the Surf Beach and Sunderland Bay area with the 1,040 properties. Council has worked to rectify these estate issues over many years, and we continue to use the urban road and drainage policy. I think Pioneer Bay Estate, which has just been completed, is a good example of the beautification of a coastal estate and to see what is possible. There has been a great deal of anxiety created by some misinformation. If we don't move forward from this point, the residents from Surf Beach and Sunderland Bay won't have all the information to make an informed individual decision. There's actually, Mr Mayor, if I could read it out, a statement that was in the Sentinel Times last week, which I think really says it quite succinctly. If the preferred concept option is adopted, the project will be further developed. Cost estimates, cost proportioning will be undertaken to proportion the anticipated costs to the recipients of the project. When the funding mechanism of the special charge scheme is adopted, property owners will be formally notified of Council's intent to declare a special charge scheme and will then have the opportunity to support or oppose the project. So that is, I think, is a very clear statement. We certainly don't know what we don't know. So without correct facts and costings in front of each and every property owner, and it is only at that time and only then that each property owner will have the information required to make a decision based on their individual situation. There is a formula to how Council breaks down these costs, and proportions are based on the frontage of the properties. 10 years ago, materials and costs would have been cheaper, a lot cheaper to do this project. And in 10 years' time, the cost will be considerably greater. I believe the time is to consider all the information is now, and let's finally have that information for an upgrade to this community presented to them. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lasserve. Councillor Holstead.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd also like to acknowledge that this proposal's caused considerable emotion across Surf Beach and Sunderland Bay, and it has been a long 4 months with 4 rounds of community engagement conducted. It does sadden me to hear reports of intimidation and bullying tactics that have been used throughout the community, to the point I did read recently a lady being bailed up in her kitchen, an 80-year-old woman bailed up in her kitchen with people trying to convince her to vote a certain way. I've received daily emails, both for and against the proposal, or all offering varying points of view. And what's come from this engagement is now before us in a preferred concept plan that offers minimal cost, least impact on the environment, and retains the characteristics of the area. All 3 of the most important aspects that were highlighted by the community themselves. The decision today is not to see the work begin, but to progress to the next stage where all information inclusive of cost is provided to allow an informed decision. Residents who feel bullied or intimidated have a right not to engage with anyone they don't feel comfortable talking to, and I would encourage them to access factual information through the Engage Bass Coast website. I will be supporting the recommendation, and I would highlight that further opportunity for submissions against and for the proposal will be provided. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Holstead. Any other councillor wish to speak at this stage? Councillor Rocks.
Thank you, Mayor Whelan. I just wanted to congratulate the council officers on the consultation that's taken place so far. There's been 3 levels of consultation. and a lot of data has been collected. The design has been presented reflective of that data. Can I just say I'm getting a lot of feedback here? You hearing feedback from your end or not? No, I'll keep going. This round now is another piece of information sharing to the community. It's another important stage. And I want to thank the community for sticking with the process that the council is running amongst all the negative energy that's been going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rooks. Any other councillor wish to speak?
Mr Mayor, if I can.
Councillor Tassari.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I feel compelled to speak to this one. I sat at Inverloch Council offices about 4 years ago when we voted on the Pioneer Bay scheme, and I said then that this is never ideal when you're talking road schemes with the community, but the difference it makes on people's lives is incredible. I remember, and I'm going to touch back on the same story I said then. I remember growing up in Broome Crescent, living on a dirt road with parents that didn't have 2 cents to rub together, and the road scheme came through and they went on the pay off system, and it made our lives so much better to be able to get out onto the sealed roads and the footpaths and such. The community that didn't want to have to pay for it but did loved it. We then moved to North Monthaggi onto a dirt road, and sure enough, another scheme came through. And once again, my parents went on the payoff system. And again, as a 15-year-old kid, being able to be out in that road, unfortunately, I won't say we were doing the right thing, but we were playing cricket and such out in the road, and it was much better amenity and much better lifestyle. So it's not ideal. I understand it. I've seen my parents go through it, but I've also seen the difference it's made to the people at Pioneer Bay. They were adamant that they didn't want it, and it's now magic down that area. And I encourage the community to the same thing. And again, we've already discussed bullying with one of the councillors before. These people will always come out and try and be aggressive and sit behind their computer screens. But I look out in the gallery at the ones that were expecting to come and voice their opinions today, and there's no one. So be strong, be brave, stick up for what you want, but a good thing for the community.
Thanks, Councillor Tassari. Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, Councillor Lasserve.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As Councillor Tassari just said, that there's been many examples of communities that have residents where we've put these schemes together before that have opposed them. But once the road and drainage scheme is done, I don't believe I've had any comeback saying that they didn't appreciate the benefits of that upgrade to their community. This style of scheme creates a generational benefit to themselves and to their community. You buy and you sell. And if you're living in a dust-free environment with better amenities, is a better outcome for all. So I believe that at this point, council's asking us the recommendation to accept the preferred option to move forward so that people can get appropriate costings. I will say that there will be, council has a payment option plan for special charge schemes, and people need to consider those when they get all the information. And to look on Engage Bass Coast, as Councillor Holstead has said. So thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lasserve. Those in favour? That's carried.
I forgot to vote, Mr Mayor,
After all of that. 8.2, planning application 210129, 35 Cows Rural Road, Cows. Mr Sturton to introduce. I would just indicate that Councillor Rooks has a conflict of interest and will leave the room, so we'll just wait while that occurs. Mr Sturton, would you introduce the report, please?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present planning application 210129, which seeks to subdivide the land into 6 gate reserves and associated works and remove native vegetation at 35 Cows Rural Road, Cows. The land is zoned general residential zone and is subject to a vegetation protection overlay. The application was advertised and received 11 objections. The application has been assessed against the Bass Coast Planning Scheme, and it has been found that the proposal is consistent with the purpose of the relevant zone. It is recommended that council issue a notice of decision to grant a planning permit subject to the conditions as outlined in the report, including the requirements to obtain native vegetation offsets. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Sturton. Have a councillor to move. Councillor Bauer,
Wish to move an alternate?
have an alternative. Can you read that alternative without speaking to it, please, councillor Bauer?
The alternative is to reject the application, and the rest of it's on the screen there. For councillor Swan.
Essentially, you're asking for a refusal. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Lasserve. Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, fellow councillors and members of the community watching this meeting. With Councillor Rooks declaring conflict of interest in this agenda item and Councillor Whelan being in the chair, it has fallen upon me as the other Island Ward councillor to bring to the attention of fellow councillors the shortcomings of this application. We pride ourselves on our natural beauty. We've been developing policies to make living in the Shire a nature-based experience. We scrutinise every twig of every tree that is removed for development. In this proposal, there is a beautiful wetland supporting flora, fauna, including swans, purple hens, frogs, and I've been reliably told trout live in the waters. Everybody who has visited this proposal is impressed by this wetland. It is significant for the Cowes area. This wetland is a rarity. The Shearwater Estate in Cowes created wetland features to complement the development. Here, the job is already done. The surrounding houses enjoy the amenity of this peaceful, significant wetland, and I'm sure the architects can rework the proposal to exploit the maximum return for the developer incorporating the wetland. This development proposes 16 housing allotments, and as part of this plan, the wetland is to be filled in and 3 houses put there instead. Fellow councillors, this wetland must be saved. I note in the officer's report that they refer to the wetland as a dam. I have been informed that a dam does not have an independent water source. If one walks to the south side of the wetland, one can see the trees are underwater as well. I've been informed from additional sources that the height of the water in the wetlands for this time of year, is rather high, indicating the wetland is being water fed. As to the argument that if the development goes ahead incorporating the wetland, then council will be responsible for the wetlands upkeep, I say this, so be it. Another reason this proposal needs to be reworked is the amount of trees being removed. The officer's report has identified trees 12, 15, 41, 44, 45, 50, 56, and 66 for retention. There is nothing better to capture CO2 than a mature existing tree. The retention of the natural vegetation complements the wetlands and enhances the area. If we are true to our policies about preserving our environment and living in a nature-based experience, then you will vote with me in rejecting this application. Please, fellow councillors, keep an open mind. I commend the motion to the chamber.
Councillor Lasserve.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I'm supporting Councillor Bauer's notice of alternate notice to refuse based on the 70 trees to be removed. I think that's in contrary to our climate change plan, and the wetlands, the removal of that, I believe that that's certainly it would be an asset to this allotment. I understand it's within the town boundaries, but I believe it could have been developed in a more sensitive environmental approach. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lasserve. Any other councillor wish to speak to this? Councillor Tassari.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'll talk to that. I thank Councillor Bauer for his theatrical plead for us councillors to keep an open mind. It actually made me chuckle a little. Look, the wetlands, which looks very much like a dam, to me, I don't have a massive concern. If there is a spring there, then in the conditions, which are extensive, I think I lost interest in counting how many pages of conditions are on this one after 10. The spring is protected, but I do have concerns with the trees, I must admit, 72 trees. I've had conversation which tells me that we're protecting a certain amount, which is quite minimal. I am very much divided on this one. I came in thinking I was probably not going to support the alternative. But I'm sitting here right now and I'll wait and hear the rest of the arguments to decide which way I'll vote. But I can't help but call it a dam, not a wetland, Councillor Bauer. But yeah, we'll wait and see.
Councillor Tessari, any other councillor wish to speak? If not, Councillor Bauer in response.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Summing up, bird life, fish, trees, natural beauty, tranquility, serenity, a wetland in the urban air boundaries of Cowes, the list goes on. This application does not sit with our environmental or neighbourhood character goals. Fellow councillors, planning application 2101-291 must be rejected. I commend the motion to a vote.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Those in favour? Against? It's carried.
Yes.
Too much for me, Councillor.
That brings us back to where am I now? 8.3. Planning application 220470 Mars Landing Boat Ramp. Mr. Sturton to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present planning application 220470
Point of order.
to upgrade the
Councillor Rooks.
It's all right, we've made arrangements. Thanks, Councillor Bauer.
existing boat ramp and car park at Mars Landing Road, Inverloch, with associated vegetation removal. The land is zoned farming zone and public conservation and resource zone and is subject to an environmental significant overlay, land subject to inundation overlay and a significant landscape overlay. The application was advertised and received one objection, which was withdrawn. Applications before council as the cost of works will exceed $3 million. The project will be funded by Better Boating Victoria with council as the delivery agency. The application has been assessed against the Bass Coast Planning Scheme and it's been found that the proposal is consistent with the purpose of the relevant zone. It is recommended that council issue a planning permit for application 220470, subject to the conditions as outlined in the report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Sturton. Can I have a councillor to move and a councillor to second the report? Councillor Lang and Councillor Holstead. Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very excited to be putting this project for decision, as it will significantly improve the amenity and accessibility of this boat ramp and associated facilities. Currently, there is only a single lane boat ramp, which generally enables launching by smaller vessels up to 5 metres, only at high tide. And the concept plans for the upgrade of this boat ramp have been created with significant consultation with the community, recreational boaters and fishers and relevant agencies, of which there are quite a few given the number of overlays and the sensitivity of that area. $4 million has been contributed by Better Boating Victoria to improve the quality of this boat ramp, which will include a new all-tide dual lane boat ramp extending about 80 metres from the car park. There'll be 57 car trailer spaces, 5 car standard spaces, and widening of the entry to the car park, just to name a few of the upgrades. As it currently stands, this boat ramp is overdue for upgrades, and this development will allow the community and recreational fishers and boaters greater opportunities to enjoy this beautiful part of the world, and ideally enhance the tourism offerings for Inverloch and that area.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Councillor Holstead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't really have anything further. I think Councillor Lang's covered it all, but as someone who enjoys fishing, I'm excited for the fishing community. So let's move on this one and get it up and running.
Okay, any other councillor wish to speak to this? If not, Councillor Lang, you happy to put it?
I just really quickly wanted to add that this project follows on from the redevelopment of the real boat ramp. So the evidence is quite clear that this is quite a successful project approach by Better Boating Victoria. So
thank you, Councillor Lang. Those in favour? Against, that's carried. That brings us to item 8.4. We need to get Councillor Rooks back into the room. Oh, sorry, I'm a bit ahead of myself. All right, conflict of interest is what I should have read. 8.4, Bass Coast Unlocking Rural Tourism. Mr. Sturton to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm pleased to present to Council for adoption the Bass Coast Unlocking Rural Tourism Strategy. The purpose of this project was to undertake a land use study for Council's rural tourism precincts and investigate the reasons behind limited tourism investment in certain areas to date. The draft strategy was released for consultation in mid-2022, and 300 community members engaged through a thorough consultation process, which resulted in the receipt of 46 individual submissions. 4 key changes have been made to the final strategy from the draft strategy based on community feedback. Better recognition of environmental and landscape considerations, maintaining the rural activity zone, ensuring appropriate services and infrastructure and not creating urban landscapes, ensuring Indigenous artefacts, values and landscapes are preserved and enhanced through tourism. Adoption of the Bass Coast Unlocking Rural Tourism Strategy will enable further strategic work to be undertaken, which will deliver appropriate and sustainable tourism outcomes across our rural landscapes. I present the Bass Coast Unlocking Rural Tourism Strategy for adoption. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Sturton. Can I have a councillor to move and a councillor to second the recommendation? Councillor Lasserve and Councillor Tassari. Councillor Lasserve.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I think Mr. Sturton's actually read through all my notes. But I did want to make mention that there was a community consultation with, there was a large number, it was 300 community members and industry stakeholder groups participated in the draft process. There were 45 submissions that were received. I believe that's really a very strong kind of response. I would like to ask Mr. Sturton about, as the report was presented, for further consultation or feedback on the final draft. Is there opportunity for the community, through you, Mr. Mayor, to make further comment?
Mr Sturton.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The consultation on the draft strategy was, as you've mentioned, Councillor Sir, pretty exhaustive. So we've taken on board all that feedback and made those changes, which are reflected now into the final strategy. So this is presented to adopt the final strategy now to Council.
Thank you. Okay, I'm pleased to see that there was some controversy because I have worked through this process in my time in council with rural activity zones many years ago, and I think that it was a good piece of work, and it certainly, I think, needed further understanding and better development of that within that farming sector that falls under the rural activity zone. So I'm pleased that it's been put back into the final document so that there's further clarity around that. And I think that that will lead to further investigations and on a better way forward. So I did ask about the conflict with the DEL, but it's actually a document that sits side by side with it. So the planning scheme will reflect that within the DEL. So I'm happy to move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Lasserve. Councillor Tassari.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good piece of work done by our staff here and the extensive consultation. Very happy with the document. More than happy to support it and back up the words said by Councillor Lasserve.
Okay, thank you. Any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? If not, Councillor Lasserve, shall we put it? Those in favour? That's carried. Now, it's now time to get Councillor Brooks to return. Councillor David Brooks has arrived, getting my screen. So that brings us to 8.5, Surf Parade Inverloch Shared Path Stage 3B alignment. Mr Sturton to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present to Council an amended plan to deliver the final stage of the Surf Parade Shared Path, which is the remaining link from the existing shared path to the Inverloch Surf Lifesaving Club. An initial plan for the shared path was endorsed by Council in August of 2019. This plan would have involved the removal of significant native coastal vegetation along the Surf Parade foreshore. Council has been made aware that Marine and Coastal lack consent to remove this vegetation by the state government would not be forthcoming. As such, a new plan has been proposed which keeps the shared path and two-way traffic within the council-operated road reserve. It is noted that this new plan will see a reduction in the informal car parking that presently takes place along Surf Parade. Ongoing monitoring of parking practices and any impacts on the surrounding streets will be undertaken post-construction. The new path alignment achieves the objectives of completing the remaining shared path link and limits impact on local traffic movements. The new path plan is presented to council for adoption. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Sturton. Could I have a councillor to move and to second the motion?
Motion to defer.
Councillor Lang has a motion to defer the item. Is there a seconder? Councillor Tassari. Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I seek my fellow councillors' support to defer this motion after a lot of consideration of the longest consideration for probably the shortest path, but we don't do things by halves here at Bass Coast Shire Council. Is this the part where I talk, Mr Mayor?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Been seconded.
I'm new to motions to defer. I don't do this often and I do it reluctantly, but when I ran for council, I did make a commitment to the community that I wanted to see the finalisation of this shared pathway in Inverloch. It has been a very long time coming. And I am still committed to providing that pathway for Inverloch, but I want to make it clear that there is significant community opposition to the pathway without providing for parking as was originally supported largely by the majority of the community during consultation back in 2019. There will be some keyboard warriors out there, I'm sure, champing at the bit to have a crack at council not being able to deliver this path. But I'm proud that myself and fellow councillors have sought advice and had numerous conversations with people in the community. I particularly appreciate the work of the Inverloch Traders Association, who are prepared and continue to work collaboratively with us and community to find a better outcome and ensure that all options have been exhausted to find an alternative design that hopefully will provide parking, because at the moment we are constrained by DECA. And I also wanted to appreciate the considerable body of work by the South Gippsland Conservation Society to protect the coast from further erosion through the Cape to Cape Coastal Resilience Project. And since 2019, we had that initial findings come back to say that this is a critical piece of coast and that the state government that DECA would not approve the path as originally stood, as mentioned by Mr Sturton. This coast is important because it is a community focal point where everyone congregates and enjoys one of the central tourist attractions of Inverloch. And this is also why the shared pathway is vital. At the moment, I do have the two options presented to me within the original motion, and I don't think that those two options are the best for what the community wants, and that's why I am proposing a motion to defer.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Councillor Tassari.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Lang. You've only been sitting through this since you were elected 2.5 years ago. I've been sitting through this now for 6.5 years, and I ran 6.5 years ago to get this pathway done. So your frustration, magnify that at least by double, because it's incredibly frustrating, and I do feel for the community. It's not as simple, and I've been getting a lot of messages. It's not as simple as going back to what was originally passed in 2019, because we have it in writing that will not get through. That will not be permitted by DELP or DECA. So we have to work out something different, and we will get smashed. We get smashed no matter what way we go, but we have to come up with a better alternative. Pathway, we thought originally that this was going to be the better way. While we had this pathway with no parking, but we looked at other parking options, which unfortunately have been taken away from us now. So we need to get the community together again. We need to come up with a better option for this last bit of pathway. We need the pathway done. I would love to see it done in my time, but I'm pretty much now of the opinion that I won't see it done in my time. But we do need the pathway finished. We need the parking sorted out. We need transport studies done. We need a lot of things done for the township of Inverloch. the Inverloch community feel that they've been done over by this, and I don't disagree with them, but to continue on at this path with what we have now is not right. So I agree with Councillor Lang. The best thing to do right now is to defer and to come up with a better option for the community. And again, I do thank the community members, but also the organisations that have reached out to make their voices heard on this one as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tesari. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Holstead.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I just want to congratulate Councillor Lang because I know that she has, and Councillor Tesari, in fact, I know they've both really suffered a bit of anxiety over this one. And I know the area well because my family and I had a cabin at Surfside in Inverloch, and I know just how busy that section of road gets in the high season. In the last few days, I've had a significant number of emails from the community of Inverloch and telephone conversations. So I think it's terrific that the councillors have listened to the community and they want a bit more time to consider the options after listening to the concerns of their community. So I think you've done a great job to defer it, and I'll certainly be supporting you for that.
Thank you, Councillor Holstead. Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, Councillor Lang, do you wish to reply, or shall we put it to a...
Very briefly, Mr Mayor, I just wanted to highlight we're not deferring this indefinitely. Don't worry, I'll be biting at the ankles of a few of the council officers, figuratively speaking, to ensure that we can move this along. But we just want to make sure, 100% sure, that we can exhaust all our options and preserve the coastal vegetation in that space. So I think that hopefully we can find something sooner rather than later.
Thank you. Those in favour? That's carried. 8.6, response to petition Poplar Street, Wonthaggi. Mr Sturton to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present to Council an update and response to the petition received regarding local area traffic concerns, particularly commercial traffic, in and around Poplar Street, Wonthaggi. The petition was received at the Council meeting on the 17th of March 2021 that contained 27 signatures. An 8-tonne load limit is in place within the local area and parking controls and signage have been implemented. Engagement with local businesses is also conducted where required. These measures have proven effective to date. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Sturton. Can I have a councillor to move and second the report, please? Councillor Lasserve and Councillor Lang. Councillor Lasserve.
Oh, look, thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I just think this position was presented. I feel a bit stunned that it was 2 years ago. You know, I'm pleased that it's finally got to us and that all the no parking signs and everything has been sorted out, and those commercial interests in that area have been, you know, it's helped their businesses. It is really quite a rat run with a lot of traffic trying to avoid that corner near Bunnings. So, look, I'm happy to say that the council has moved forward on it and happy to move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Lasserve. Councillor Lang.
Nothing further.
Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, shall we put it, Councillor Lasserve?
Yes, thank you, Mr.
Those in favour? That's carried, which brings us to 8.7, repair a Kernock-Creweera Road landslip. Mr Sturton to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to seek authorisation to progress the design and construction works to a section of Kernock-Creweera Road that has been catastrophically impacted by landslip. The affected section of road has been closed since August 2022 and 20 adjoining residents are impacted. An 18-kilometre detour has been in place since the road was closed. Estimates for this project indicate the total project costs will amount to $1.4 million. This will be managed through Council's Capital Works program. It is noted the Council will apply for Victoria Disaster Recovery funds to supplement the budget as much as possible. The outcome of this funding application will not be known for some months. In the meantime, Council needs to progress these rectification works and seeks approval to do so as outlined in the report. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Mr Sturton, have a councillor to move and second the motion. Councillor Tesari, Councillor Holstead. Councillor Tesari.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Happy to move this one. I look at the diagram on page 106 and it's incredible, to be honest with you. The sarcastic person in me thinks that it's much the same as a lot of the roads throughout the state at the moment, but that is in terrible, terrible condition, and the poor people up in that area that are directly impacted have probably suffered long enough. Let's get the road fixed and let them get on with living life, but it's a terrible diagram on 106.
Thank you, Councillor Tesari. Councillor Holstead.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I agree with Councillor Tesari on this one. I think it's about a 14-kilometre trip to get around it. Is that correct, Mr Sturton?
Through you, Mr Mayor, 18 kilometres.
18 kilometres, yes. So it'll be terrific to have that fixed for the local community. And I understand that by fixing it will assist in stabilising further up the road. So yes, I'll be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillor wish to speak? Shall we put that, Councillor Tesari? Those in favour? Against, that's carried. 8.8 Basque Coast Partnerships Framework Review. Mr Box to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Council engages in multiple partnerships to meet service delivery, community strengthening and to support local economic and tourism needs. These partnerships mean that Council can leverage through groups and organisations to meet mutual positive outcomes for the Basque Coast community. And partnerships take the form of funding, officer support and through subsidised facilities. The proposed partnership framework will guide the redesign of administration processes to ensure good governance is maintained and resources are used effectively. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Box. Have a councillor to move and second the motion. Councillor Holstead, seconded. Councillor Rooks. Councillor Holstead.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The mid-2022 year notice of motion referred to in the officer's comments was mine, and I'm really pleased to see this report come before Council. It was a surprise to me that Council had not previously had a policy that not only offers criteria for which ratepayers' funds can be used, but also monitors the outcomes to ensure that ratepayers are receiving value for money. So I'm really pleased to see this before us today. Council has many partnerships across many departments with an estimated total spend of 2.6 million annually. That's in-kind and financial support. And it's widely understood that these partnerships provide an invaluable and very positive benefit across the Shire, in many cases providing outcomes that far exceed the investment Council makes. However, good governance would require a policy around funds that are distributed, managed and reported. So I support the intent of the policy and framework, which is stated on page 101 of this report, and that is to establish an integrated and consistent approach to how Basque Coast Shire will manage partnerships to achieve best value outcomes and good governance in the broader public interest. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Holstead. Councillor Rooks.
Thank you, Mayor Whelan. I'm really also pleased that Council's taking this initiative and looking at improving the framework that we have around establishing and maintaining partnerships. It's amazing there are 174 partnerships that are listed that Council has, and there's probably many more groups out there that potentially could have a partnership with Council. And this framework will help us decide those that can work with Council and have mutual benefit outcomes. It's probably a good time to do this as well, in the sense that since post-COVID, the pandemic, volunteerism has declined and some groups are struggling, and it'll be a good opportunity for Council to talk to all the groups that are volunteer groups and establish how they want to move forward. So I think this is a good timing as well, and I'm looking forward to this going out to the community and getting their feedback through this consultation process. Thank you.
Any other councillor wish to speak?
I'm scratching my head.
He had to call there, Councillor Tesari. No other councillor. Councillor Holstead, you happy to put it?
Yes, happy to put it.
Those in favour? Against, that's carried. 8.9 Review of Council Involvement in Cemetery Operations. Mr Mack to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The report provides advice on a review of cemetery operations sought by Council in July 2021 and finds that there is the community in seeking an alternative management option for the cemetery. It recommends that Council give in-principle approval for officers to explore the transfer of management of Wonthaggi Cemetery Trust and San Remo Cemetery Trust to a Class A Cemetery Trust. Officers will discuss a potential transfer with Southern Metropolitan Cemeteries Trust to understand the terms of any proposed agreement and will present these to a future council meeting for consideration. If supported at a future meeting, a formal process will be undertaken, and this would include community engagement. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mack. Can I have a councillor move and a councillor to second the motion, please? Councillor Rooks, and I'm not sure who was second. I think it was Councillor Holstead. Councillor Rooks.
Thank you, Mayor Whelan. This is a difficult position for council to be in. We're managing a trust, both Wonthaggi and San Remo Cemetery Trust, and we're managing them regularly at a loss. And it's difficult because the community's expectations for service levels tends to continue to increase. Historically, volunteers may have supported these two cemeteries more. However, that may not be the case now. It should be noted that there are 5 other cemeteries across the Bass Coast Shire which have volunteer involvement and are community-run trusts. As far as council being involved in managing the trust for cemeteries, it's not something that councils tend to do as a core business. I think it's something that our council is keen to not be involved in, and many other councils have moved themselves away from it as well. The decision that we're making is going to be a long-term decision. The initial costs to hand over the trust will be very high, with perpetuity having to be paid for many years in the future. However, if we keep the trust going, the ongoing staff savings, operating costs and future capital costs will easily exceed the transfer costs now. So the final outcome, if this transfer goes ahead, will be an expected increase in service levels as we pass it on to an agency that's skilled in this area, and removing of cemetery costs from the council's budget. And so I support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Rooks. Councillor Holstead.
I think Councillor Rooks has said it all. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Holstead. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to highlight that the headline in today's Sentinel, I have to say, was in pretty poor taste for how council takes care of its cemeteries. We are talking about a very special holy place that we put our loved ones to rest, and council takes that responsibility seriously. Otherwise, this report wouldn't have come to council. We have a duty under our trust to maintain it forever, and that is a financial duty. At the moment, that financial duty is projected not to be feasible, as Councillor Rooks already highlighted, and council currently ratepayers are subsidising the maintenance of the cemetery. So this report is about, for me, recognising the need to ensure the sustainability of these cemeteries, and it's also about starting the conversation with the organisation. So we are starting the conversation, and there will be much more feedback and another further report to council before any decision is made. And the decision will be taken very, very seriously. We do understand our responsibilities, and we want to provide the best quality resting places within our shire. And I just also wanted to say something else, but I think it slipped my mind, so I'll leave it there. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Any other Councillor Lasser?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank the Friends of groups, the groups that have worked very closely and dedicated for many years with the Wonthaggi group and the San Remo group. I mean, their volunteering work that they put in has just been, exceptionally. It's just been something that they've been committed to, and I congratulate them on that good work. As Councillor Rooks said, we have got the other cemeteries, Coronella, Granville, Inverloch, Kilcunva and Phillip Island, that are run by dedicated volunteers as well. They operate and manage them. They do a very fantastic job. So I just wanted to make that acknowledgement, because we have worked with them over the years, and certainly want to acknowledge their part in this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lasser. Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, Councillor Rooks, shall we put that?
Yes, please.
Favour? That's carried. Which brings us to statutory reports. And I seek a councillor to move and to second that agenda items 9.1, 9.2 and 9.3 be considered as a block. Councillor Bauer. and councillor Lang. Those in favour? Against, that's carried. Does any councillor wish to discuss anything in the reports? I should be looking here. If not, I seek a move and a seconder to the resolution. The recommendations attached to agenda items 9.1, 9.2 and 9.3 be adopted. Councillor Tassari and councillor Bauer. Those in favour? Against, that's carried. That brings us to urgent business, of which there is none. Announcement of next meeting of council. The next meeting of council will be held on the 19th of April 2023 in the Bass Coast Civic Centre Council Chamber, Ballieu Street East, Wonthaggi, commencing at 1 p.m. I now declare the meeting closed, and thanks for your attendance and observation today.